Hello, welcome to the India Adventure, a series where nature, ecology, and psychology meet. I'm Lutz Otto. I'm a walking and wilderness guide and business consultant. My co-host, Dr. Ken Jennings, is a consulting psychologist in private practice. I'm based in South Africa and Ken is based in Germany. In our last episode, we spent a little bit of time exploring the concept of resolve and resilience in an adventure. In a challenge. We spent the episode talking about these fundamentals to coming through any challenge in life in the context of preparation. In this part of the series, we're going to shift to the actual challenge. We thought to start the flow, we would go into the first slide. And it was a slide we discussed in the last series. Ken, I don't know if you'd like to jump in at this point.
Sure, Lutz. I mean, that photograph is so far removed from where I'm sitting here in Germany. I just wish I could jump into that photograph. I mean, I'm looking forward to our conversation. Yeah, I mean, you know, in any journey or on any journey, there are these ups and these downs. And I'm wondering now, what is this group going to be encountering, you know, as it walks, as you're guiding this walk, what are the challenges going to be for this group? Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation today, Lutz. And you're looking good there in South Africa.
Thank you, Ken. I think let's just jump straight into our next picture. So to create a little bit of context, following on the previous photo, in the winter months in particular, water can be a challenge. What we have here is a well that we've dug in a seemingly completely dry riverbed, and we've created the well, and we're now collecting, which is fundamentally a vital source for us to be able to live. Over the average walking safari, we could do this a couple of times. Ken, anything jumping out as you look at that?
No, I just don't know what this process is, but you know, I don't know how long you have to take to dig this little well. I don't know how successful you are. Is it every time that you dig, you suddenly get water, or don't you? But I you know, I mean, it's looking for me. It's I've never done this, Lutz, so I mean, there's a bit of intrigue on my side.
So these wells are not that easy to create, and every point in a river, doesn't have them. So we go to very specific places where we think it might hold water, yes. And we could dig anywhere up to I've dug up to 1.5 meters deep to get to water. But generally, at about 0.5 meters, we find the water. We then pack these stones, so we create that. And we clarify that water by scooping until we've got beautiful, clean water. On departure, we rehabilitate this well completely. So there's no sign of us having been there, which I think is really important in terms of wilderness ethic. Yes. I think what jumps out with most of the folk that are on this type of safari, and again, bringing context, we're speaking specifically about backpacking safaris, or backpacking experiences rather than a safari in a lodge. What jumps out at most people is that we are so domesticated that this is completely foreign to their daily lives. In the beginning, they can't believe what we're doing. In the end, they're just blown away by this process.
Let's, you know, you talk about domestication. And I think that's one of the processes that we have to unbundle as part of having resolve in nature, or having resolve in the wilderness, because you can't hide behind the comforts of home. You can't suddenly just go to a tap and turn on the tap for water. So part of the encounter, the challenge, which activates your resolve and your resilience, is when you encounter reality, as in the wilderness, and it shows a side of itself that might not be comfortable for you. You know, it might, for example, be boiling hot, or you don't have any water. That moment will then test your resilience and your resolve. In other words, how do you respond to that? And many of the top sportsmen that I work with, for example, have got this ability to rise above, in a way, the challenge, to respond to it in a way that gives them the best chance of success in terms of, let's say, top competition. And they do something very interesting, is when I ask them what they're focusing on, they will generally say they focus on the things that they can control. And they accept the things that they can't control. So the mental shift focuses on, what can I do in this situation? What is in the realm of my influence? And then they align themselves to that. So, for example, they can't change the heat. You know, the sun is baking down in them. And the more the mind goes to that, like say, I wish I could be cooler, or I wish, you know, that I don't have, you know, the sun, the more irritable they become, the more, let's say, frustrated they become. So if this person digging, was this you, Lutz?
No, this is one of my co-guides called Chris Prinsley. Yeah.
So if his focus was, sure, you know, the sand is dry, you know, and it's getting hot and whatever, you know, there's absolutely no resolve. But if you're focusing on, how do I what's the best way to go and get water? Maybe I'm not in the right place. I need to shift and start digging somewhere else. And so the resolve comes in terms of, what can I control as a human being in this reality that I'm experiencing, and what are the uncontrollables? And I have to accept the uncontrollables. I can't change it, and I have to work within the controllables.
It's interesting, the point that you just make. So often this kind of process that you see unfolding here happens towards the end of the day. And you can clearly see somebody that is embracing this, and the way that this process, because we don't just arrive at a campsite, turn on the tap, and now there's water. You arrive at the campsite, you might be a little bit tired, you've been sweating, and now your guide says, look, we're going to dig a hole. And they go, what for? Well, that's the only way we're going to drink. And at this point, you might be very, very thirsty, or you might have the realization that I've got 500 mils of water left. It's not going to last me for the rest of this trail. I'm going to have to do this thing. Yes. So what happens at that point is you can see people that embrace this, which is by far the majority of people actually, and you can see people that step away from this. And that will play out in their resilience through the trail. I thought I'd share another photograph, Ken, that takes us on another journey, and right out of the savanna biome into the mountains. Okay. Let's see if I can share that. Very different picture. Big exposure, huge exposure, a little bit of mist, completely different environment. The common ground is wilderness. Any thoughts there, Ken?
Well, for me, what strikes me immediately is mountain, you know, and metaphorically, resilience and resolve has got to do with mountains, mental mountains. In other words, we have to climb up through something. We have to deal with the obstacle that's in our way. We have to transcend the difficulty, the challenge. And the resolve is this ability to remain focused in summiting this mountain, in getting over this mountain. And I think this story about the mountain that we have to ascend reads true for me throughout life. You know, we can actually be talking about, you know, somebody that has had to deal with, let's say, a severe illness, for example, you know, or cancer. is what is the resolve of the person? You know, how do you tackle such a mountain in one's life? I think experiences in nature like this help to facilitate this inner strength that we all have as human beings, to be able to summit the mountain, you know, to overcome the difficulties that we have. So, I mean, that's what really hits me, Lutz, and, you know, the vastness of it, you know, dealing with the extremeness. I mean, this is quite an extreme process as well, you know, the mist, sometimes not being able to see, you know, metaphorically, but then having the trust in yourself.
Ken, you brought in a completely different perspective to this picture. Having done a fair amount of mountaineering in my life, didn't quite see it in that way. And as I look at it, I now take it to the next level and start thinking, you know, there's this deep shadow, and all of us have shadows that we need to work through.
Yes.
And that's the work. I think in psychology, in positive psychology, in depth psychology, that's the work. That's the mountain we've got to climb. Whatever that mountain is. I think in the context of nature, and particularly wilderness environments that challenge us, they for me and for many people that I've seen, seem to give us a set of tools that we learn out there that we can bring back into the workplace. We can bring back home. There is no doubt that you don't need words to describe that undertaking this kind of backpacking or mountaineering in this case is going to require a little bit of resilience. I think probably a lot of resilience. I think what strikes me is that it's not just on the mountain that we then exhibit that resilience. So when we come back into life, and you're able to draw on that experience. One of the things that I always say on the close of my walking safaris, especially the backpacking safaris, is when we're sitting around the fire at night, talking the last time, I talk about what's the superpower that you're going to take back into society. What is the superpower that you've learned out here that you're going to be able to draw on? And I think you've beautifully illustrated some of that. I thought I'd share another picture. This one certainly ramps it up a little bit. So this is ice climbing. Two quite extreme pictures. The one on the left is what we call trad climbing. So it's with the use of rope and protective gear was placed. Really challenging and extreme environment. The one on the right, also ice climbing, this time without ropes, really challenging, extreme environment, but without the safety of a rope. If you fall on the right, things could get tricky. What are you thinking, Ken?
Lutz, I'm thinking extreme. I mean, I'm thinking, wow, talking about resolve and resilience. I think you've revealed now the pinnacle of an experience where you have to call on everything, you know, all of your resilience, all of your resolve to overcome the challenge. So I think we have to think of these challenges in a sort of a variety of degrees, or in a degree element. Is that, you know, even for let's say a elderly person to walk 5Ks can be extreme for them. So let's not fall into the trap to think that is the story about what resolve and resilience is. Okay, so we all have got our challenges. However old we are, however, let's say, fit we are, or maybe we've got limitations in certain ways. All of that builds up a package about who you are as an individual. And then with this package, we encounter our worlds. Now, in the case of our our conversations, we encounter nature or we encounter wilderness, and it's this connection or this meeting place between yourself and your package, mental, emotional, spiritual, and then the challenge of what nature is throwing at you. And that encounter is where the play out of resolve and resilience starts emerging, you know. I think attitude is so important at that moment in time. And like I mentioned just previously, is where do we put our focus in that? So you know, those two ice climbers, I mean, they have to be so laser sharp in terms of putting their ice pick in the right place and checking their balance and checking where they're standing. And it's the encounter of what I call bare skin. In other words, there's nothing between you and the environment that's creating comfort for you. There's nothing between you and the environment that's protecting you. And it's that very encounter that activates this resilience, activates the resolve and the mental toughness. And, you know, Lutz, when you walk away from such an experience, you feel very like humbled. You know, in my experience, that I've done some of the, what I would call my extreme experiences, you know, like running a comrades marathon and so on, is that you walk away knowing that this encounter you will never forget. You know, it sticks deep in the mind, it sticks deep in the heart, it sticks deep in your essence. And you remember this in terms of your stories. You know, we don't tell stories of the easy things we do in life. You know, we tell stories about the things that have challenged us, that we found difficult, the mountains that we had to sort of summit and ascend and so on. So let's, I mean, yeah, but a very extreme photograph, but again, I think tells a really profound story.
As you were talking, and I again observe the synergy between our thinking, but you know, I get a little bit concerned when people talk of resilience and resolve at quite a one-dimensional level. To me, resilience and resolve is about the spiritual aspect. And we're not talking about religion. We're talking at a different level. It is about the psychology, and it is about the ability of the psychology to take the physical beyond that. So resilience is it's a multi-dimensional thing, for lack of a better word. I
think, just to jump in there, Lutz, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But you see, if you, in these moments, if you keep the internal focus and you don't blame the external environment, let's say that is creating this difficulty for you. So you don't become a victim. In other words, nature isn't trying to hurt you. It isn't creating a thunderstorm so that it can make you wet or make me wet, or you know, or heat it because we want to get to you. So when you take this internal perspective, I mean, it is so multi-dimensional that you say, you know, but you're not looking out. You know, it's you're not blaming, you're not externally focusing. It's more on what do I have to do in this moment in time to deal with the situation that I'm in? What can I call on in terms of myself? What are my skills? What are my experiences? What is my attitude? You know, do I hold on to hope at a moment where everything seems lost? You know, can I just hold on to it? And it's that very moment when you do that where it just changes. You know, you've had many experiences like doing that ice climbing. It's that very moment where you don't know if you're going to make it, but then you find a little crack or you find something you can hold on to. And that takes you then further on.
Oh, that absolutely resonates, Ken. I mean, if we just go back to this screen over here, and then I'm going to bring us to close. In either of these photographs, we know when you're partaking in activities like this, that lifting your foot that much, I'm not sure if the arrow is showing, literally, so the crampon shifts up to there, can change everything. Literally change everything. There's a wonderful book that I read years ago called The Slight Edge by Jeff Oslin that talks about this compound effect of little bit, small increments, micro challenges that eventually become a big thing. And I think when we undertaking activities that require resilience, and in this context, these backpacking or mountaineering experiences, often it's this little thinking. So you've got the big picture in mind, but if I take 5 steps now, stop and breathe, leave it at that, and then take 10 steps, stop and breathe, and then take 5 steps, stop and breathe. That's what gets you up the mountain.
Yes, sure. That resonates a lot with me, Lutz.
Ken, I think we need to bring closure. Again, lots to talk about.
Yes.
Any final thought from you?
I mean, it's fascinating, Lutz, when we just stop for a moment and we call on our own experiences as well. I've done lots of hikes, and I know you have, and I spent a lot of time in forests and so on. And I mean, it's fascinating in terms of what we can understand within ourselves, and also the experiences we've had. And I've really enjoyed today's meeting and discussion again, Lutz, and then look forward to our next conversation. And I think it could, we can talk about resolve for the rest of our lives, because as I'm growing a bit older, I think every year, there's a challenge, and I see it also with my grandchildren. They've got their challenges. So in a way, I think developing resolve, resilience is a life skill. We're not living in easy times at the moment either. So to have this resolve and resilience, I think is like a parachute for us, and we need to build it, and we need to develop it, and we need to keep on enhancing it.
Beautiful ending to our conversation. I just want to draw on a point you made earlier, and that is with the point around hope. Hope, another conversation on its own, and underpins resolve and resilience beautifully. The other thing is I'm eternally grateful to what nature has taught me with regards to resilience and hope. Many years ago, when I was still in corporate, I remember sitting in that boardroom and having hard meetings. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I drew on my nature experiences to get through really tough times. I'm eternally grateful to what wilderness has done for me. Thank you so much for listening to us. It's been a great chat. Any likes, thoughts, comments, please add them below. Also share the conversation. Until next time, we wish you the very best. Stay well. Shine your light brightly. Till then, goodbye.